Freak Athlete claims that their brand new Nordic Hyper GHD is 6 machines in one, and that it can absolutely 100% bulletproof your body. Well, this is the 2-month review that they don't want you to watch. The No Fade channel, checking in. Jonathan here, and the social media hype train is rife with max deadlifts and bench PRs. You can't scroll twice without seeing some juiced up gym bro touting the benefits of chasing down a gallon of milk with a half a dozen donuts. Now that might be all well and good and help move the needle for those fit influencers, but it's not gonna do a damn thing to help bulletproof your body. When you hit Snap City and you hurt your lower back or your knees, you would give anything. I mean, you'd give your entire life savings to feel better, to be able to move freely without pain. Now, the Freak Athlete Nordic Hyper GHD promises to bulletproof your knees, your back, your hamstrings, everything except your ego. But does it deliver on those promises? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And is it worth all of the precious home gym real estate that it's gonna take up? This is the brainchild of a medical student and a semi-professional soccer player, both plagued with knee injuries and chronic back pain. The Nordic Hyper is supposed to replace 6 machines all in one. A Nordic bench, a GHD, a reverse hyper, a back extension, a hip thrust pad, and a sit-up bench. Each of those machines can be quite pricey, and worst of all, they will take up some serious, valuable home gym real estate. But the Nordic Hyper claims it can do the job of all of them in only 4 square feet when this thing is stored vertically. I've been utilizing the Nordic Hyper GHD from Freak Athlete in all of my workouts for the past 2 months. I've done every exercise they claim this thing can do and do well, and I even made up a few of my own. Good news first, the Nordic Hyper GHD does deliver on all of the exercises that they promise, with only a few small asterisks. Heavy enough to be sturdy, but light enough to be able to pick it up and move it into and out of position without much fanfare. Frankly, if they used heavier gauge steel and metal, it would just be more expensive and more difficult to maneuver. You can add weight to both the rear as well as the front if you are looking to improve the overall stability. But I will tell you, at 6'1", 190, because of a current bulk, I never ever felt the need to add the weight from a standpoint of safety or stability. Now, I did add weight a few times just for testing purposes, but unless you're doing some crazy, funky, GHD CrossFit style sit-ups and you're just going after it, making sure that every second counts, I don't think you're ever gonna need to add additional weight. The Nordic Hyper GHD isn't gonna get you any more social media followers. It's not gonna turn any heads, and frankly, it ain't gonna move the needle. But it absolutely can help you bulletproof your body through specific exercises scientifically shown to help target areas of chronic pain like your lower back and your knees. Now, I have a herniated disc in my lower back, so I am keen to prevent future flare-ups. Unfortunately, I just don't have the massive space needed for a specific GHD or reverse hyper machine, let alone even just getting a combo machine of the two. Knees are another massive problem area for so many people, especially as we age. And there are some key exercises that have been clinically shown to stabilize and strengthen your knees. Nordic curls, yeah, they're on the list. Unfortunately, they're hard AF. Most people can't even do them, let alone even attempt them.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
This Freak Athlete creation allows you to take on Nordic curls through progression. You can change the angle to make the exercise easier, and as you progress, you can slowly get down and finally hit that 1% club of people who can do an unassisted Nordic curl.
Eventually,
I need to thank all of you for using my affiliate links. When you use those links, it helps me keep this ice bath cold in the winter time. As usual, let me know when you use those links so that I can send you a small token of my appreciation. Hip thrusts aren't just for ladies anymore. And frankly, when I saw how you were supposed to do a hip thrust on the Nordic Hyper GHD, I had my concerns. I had my reservations. I didn't think it would feel natural. And frankly, yeah, I was wrong. Number one, the pad that they use, it's a really premium quality pad in terms of the density, how it fits, the material, and frankly, it felt really good utilizing this for hip thrust compared to my current, or I should say, previous method. Another great thing about this freak athlete Frankenstein, and one that's worth mentioning twice, is that it doesn't take up much space. When you store this vertically, it will literally sit inside of a space that's 2 feet by 2 feet, only 4 square feet. And the other thing that's really just icing on the cake, and I love to see companies do this, is that they give you a 100-day return policy, meaning you get this in your home, you use it for 3 months, and then you decide you don't like it, it's not for you. Whatever the reasons are, just return it. And that just shows they know that once you get this thing in-house, you're probably gonna fall in love with it. You can't talk about the good without exploring the bad. And as you know,
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
and probably the biggest eye-opener when it comes to this freak athlete Nordic Hyper GHD has to be that sticker shock. Now, obviously, throughout the year, the prices do vary. Currently, as of now, with my code NOFADE247, you can get this for $650 plus $94 to ship it to good old Boston. Now, I will tell you, that's actually not a bad price tag if you consider that this is going to replace at least 2 or even 3 plus massive machines. However, $650 is still a tough nut to crack. When you buy a dumbbell or a barbell, you already know how to use it. There's no learning curve. And the biggest frustration when it comes to freak athletes creation has to be the very steep learning curve. I mean, the first week, you're gonna be pulling your hair out of your head. You're not gonna know how to get from one position to another, where you need to put your hands, where you need to tighten, and where you need to loosen. It'll be a mess. By the second week, you'll pick up speed. By the third week, you'll feel more confident. And by the fourth week, you're gonna be just firing off. You're going to be able to change from one exercise to another in a matter of 5 or 10 seconds. You're not going to have to look under the hood to figure out where you need to put your hands, what you need to pull, loosen, tighten, and all that stuff. You're just going to know it. It's going to be down pat, and that initial frustration will be long gone. Back extensions on the Nordic Hyper GHD worked well, but at 6'1", I got to be honest, I did need to control that negative. Unfortunately, the mounting position for the resistance bands has a little bit of a loop right where your head will be when you're on the downswing. And if you're getting a little silly with it, you may find yourself with a little bit of a bruise if you're not careful. Height also plays a factor when it comes to the reverse hyperextension. In order to get a full range of motion and make sure my feet didn't hit the ground, I had to place this into a decline position. Now, a typical reverse hyper machine is going to decompress your spine. Unfortunately, with this machine, you only get the resistance at the top end of the exercise. Now, it's still a fantastic posterior chain exercise, great for your lower back, but it is not an exact replacement for a reverse hyperextension machine. Freak Athlete says you can add resistance to this machine by simply using bands. They provide 3 attachment points for those bands, and I will tell you that it can be done, but it's not going to mimic the typical standalone machine because the resistance is going to be at the top end of the exercise and not continuous all the way through. And I will also say that getting these bands into the right position to give you the right amount of resistance is gonna be a little bit tricky. At 6'1", I am able to do all of the exercises on this Nordic Hyper GHD with very few range of motion restrictions. I do have to imagine that if you are 6'4" or over, you are gonna find this piece of equipment lacking. Now, the good news is most of you just simply lie about your height on those dating apps.
You liar!
And only the top 3 percentile of all humans is actually 6'4" or over. Another cold, hard reality of the Freak Athlete Nordic Hyper GHD is that even though it can do tons of different exercises, some that I probably haven't even dreamed up yet, you're only gonna do a few exercises. You're gonna fall in love with a few key exercises that you're buying this for, and frankly, you're just gonna avoid utilizing it for the rest. The longer answer is that in a home gym environment, you absolutely need pieces of equipment that perform multiple functions. And Freak Athletes Mastermind here replaces a ton of different pieces of equipment, and it does so quite well. For space savings, the Nordic Hyper GHD just can't be beat. But at that price tag, you need to make sure you're going to be utilizing it for a number of different exercises to ensure that the juice is worth the squeeze. For me, I know I'm not going to be utilizing this for every possible exercise. I also know that I absolutely will be using this for Nordic curls, reverse hyperextensions, as well as lower back raises. From time to time, I'll be utilizing this for split squats as well as hip thrusts. So hide your eyes. The YouTube artificial intelligence is taking over, and they have already scanned your search history and determined that these videos are the ones you desperately want to watch next. As usual, thanks for watching, and don't save anything for the trip back.